Hey, today I'm talking about 3 films all directed by the American director Robert Altman. And the names of those 3 films are Gosford Park, The Player, and MASH. First up is Gosford Park. This is a 2001 British movie starring so many British actors that you know. I'm not even going to bother listing them, though it does have Maggie Smith, Clive Owen, Richard E. Grant, and one of my personal favorites, Kelly MacDonald. She's so cute in this. She's just adorable. I need to watch more of her stuff. I forgot I was going to do that. I'm going to do it now because she's so pretty and adorable. She's just too cute. So going into this, I knew it was a British whodunit, but as I was watching the film, I'm like, this feels a lot like what I think Downton Abbey is. I've never seen Downton Abbey, but I feel like this movie has the same sort of vibe. And then I looked into it afterwards, and the writer of this movie went on to create Downton Abbey. So if you're a fan of Downton Abbey, this is definitely worth a watch. So this movie takes place in the 1930s in England, and it's the same sort of thing where it's got the rich people and the servants, and it's all sorts of gossip and whatnot. I enjoyed this movie a good solid amount. I will start off with my complaints though. It's got the weird complaint of every now and again I come across a British movie in which I just can't understand them. Like I recognize they're saying English, but I just don't know what they're saying. And it's so frustrating when that happens because I'm like 19 times out of 20 perfectly understand all British accents. But every now and again it's like you're basically speaking French right now. I don't know what's happening. I put on subtitles and that helped a lot. And then also there's so many characters and so many names. It was just impossible to keep track of who was talking about who at any given point because there's so much like gossip that's happening and it's just like I have no idea who you're gossiping about right now. And then like my last complaint is basically this is a whodunit, like someone gets murdered, and I forgot that was supposed to happen because the actual murder doesn't happen till kind of the beginning of the 3rd act-ish. And like because it happened there, it made the movie feel like it was too long. It really should have happened at like the exact halfway point and had the whole second half be completely different. So that was just kind of weird and I wasn't a fan. But the actual whodunit stuff, thoroughly enjoyed. I loved the mystery. I loved piecing it all together because I was able to piece together bits and pieces and kind of connect the dots. And so that was a lot of fun. And it had a nice, satisfying ending. It just wasn't paced the best, I think is the easiest way to put it. I still enjoy this movie a good solid amount though. I would definitely recommend it if you're a fan of Downton Abbey or if you're just a big fan of whodunits because it is a good solid whodunit. Yeah, it's a lovely little movie and I'm really glad I watched it and now I might watch Downton Abbey. We'll see. Next up is The Player. This is a 1992 film starring Tim Robbins and featuring like every single famous actor from the 90s practically. It was ridiculous how many cameos were in this movie. Before I explain the premise, I just want to say I didn't think I had seen this movie going into it, but then like I start the first scene and I hear like the beginning of it and like a memory suddenly clicks into my brain and I'm like, wait, I think I've seen a scene from this movie. And then like the first scene starts playing out and it's one shot, it's a oneer, it's like 8 minutes long. And I instantly realized I've seen this scene before. Specifically, I vividly remember back in college in my professor Doug Heil's class, he showed us this scene. And fun fact, he follows me on Instagram. So hey Doug, thanks for showing me this scene. I don't remember why you did, but it was cool, so thanks. Okay, so the premise of this movie though is it is a noir mystery that's also a meta commentary on Hollywood, basically. Tim Robbins plays a Hollywood exec who keeps getting a bunch of death threats from someone and he's trying to figure out who the death threats are from and it's a whole twisty-turny thing. And it's a pretty dang solid movie. Though I will say, I don't think I entirely got this movie. I definitely got it, but I didn't like really get it. I feel like the reason why I didn't like really get it is because there were a lot of references to things that just went over my head. There definitely were a lot of references I got, but I just think it was targeted at people who were film buffs in the early 90s, and since I'm not that, I was 2 when that happened, I kind of missed the boat a bit. I do think the movie was definitely good and enjoyable. I especially loved Vincent D'Onofrio in this. He had a very, very small part, but every single time he was on screen, he stole the scene. He was incredible. It makes me want to go back and watch more of his earlier films because he is just, he is so dang good. Yeah, so I ended up putting this in the quite like section, so it's basically a 4 out of 5. But even though I did like it a good solid amount, I wouldn't really necessarily recommend it, especially especially like in a wide sense. I don't think it's really a movie for modern wide audiences. I would say if you're a fan of the genre, it's worth checking out at the very least, or if what I've said about this movie so far has piqued your interest, it's worth giving it a shot. But yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. Thanks, Doug. Feel free to explain this movie to me if you want to. And lastly is MASH. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the TV show MASH. Well, this is why the show exists. It is like a spin-off thing, sort of. Yeah, and this is actually based off a book as well. This movie is interesting, and that's putting it politely. To put it less politely, this movie's real horny and real sexual assaulty. And that was not fun. To put it simply, this movie has not aged well. I will elaborate what I mean by that, though. It mostly centers around the character of Margaret O'Houlihan, better known as her atrocious nickname, Hot Lips. So Margaret shows up a good chunk into the movie, and she's a big stickler for the rules. She, likes how good these guys are as surgeons, but she wants everyone to, follow the rules because the rules are there for a reason. And our heroes are all like, yeah, screw that. We're gonna not do that. And so, as payback for her wanting them to follow the rules, they put a microphone in her tent while she's having sex with someone else, and then broadcast it to the entire camp. That's where she got her nickname, is because, well, she was in the heat of the moment. She was talking to her lover, and she said in the moment about how her lips were hot, and then everyone after that kept calling her Hot Lips, even though she definitely truly hated it. Rightfully so. And then later, the moment that truly made me upset, a bunch of the guys had a bet to see if Margaret was blonde both up top and down low. And so what do? While she's in the shower, they tear down the wall to see her naked. And that's in front of a good, dozen people. She rightfully freaks out after that and goes to her superior, who yells at him for not doing anything about the whole Hot Lips nickname, for not doing anything about just the general harassment, how they're definitely not going to do anything about this awful thing that literally just happened to her. Spoilers, she doesn't do anything. Eventually, though, a higher-up shows up at camp because Margaret had previously written a letter to him talking about the harassment she had gotten, and he's like, oh, I'm treating this seriously. But the guys hear about this and they don't want to get in trouble. So what do? They distract the higher up because they found out that he likes gambling. He likes gambling with intramural football games. So they convince him to have a football game with him, make a big bet with it. And a character literally says, oh, what about Margaret's complaint? And then he's like, yeah, screw her, football. And I'm like, yeah, fuck you. And then the movie turns into a football film for 20 minutes, and it's super weird. The annoying thing, though, is if you take out all the horniness and all of the sexual harassment stuff, the rest of the movie's really solid. It's fun, it's a screwball comedy, it's ridiculous, it's an anti-war film, and even though it's not like the TV show, it gave me flashbacks to the TV show, which I do love, so it was just messy. I ended up putting this one in the liked category, but it's at the bottom of the liked category. It's kind of me being generous, I would say. I, without a doubt, don't recommend this film. Preserve the memory you have of the TV show in your mind and don't ever watch this film. Just go back and watch the good episodes of the TV show. I'm sure the show isn't perfect, but there's no way it has anything close to the awfulness that happens in this movie. Ugh. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Gosford Park sitting at number 26 in the quite like section. And then not too terribly far behind is The Player, sitting at number 37, also in the quite like section. And then bringing up the rear, rightfully so, is MASH, sitting at number 55 in the liked section. And this is out of a total of 84 old movies so far this year.